I have a question. What makes Robert make so sure that this was Muhammad's semen? Let's read a couple sources. I'm apparently the only person on the entire planet right now who's willing to stand up for Muhammad against the Islamophobic attacks of people like Robert Spencer. So, on behalf of the world's 2 billion Muslims, I would like to thank myself for being the only person who's willing to stand up for your prophet. And then you have all these sources about Muhammad being just covered in semen. What is the point of this? Who's inventing this stuff? You guys don't even know how bad this is. Look, narrated Aisha, I used to wash the semen off the clothes of the prophet, and even then I used to notice 1 or more spots in them. Aisha reported, I used to rub off the semen from the clothes of the Messenger of Allah. He would then pray in it. Narrated Aisha, I used to scrape off the semen from the garment of the Messenger of Allah with my hand. I asked Aisha about the clothes soiled with semen. She replied, I used to wash it off the clothes of Allah's Messenger. He would go for the prayer while water spots were still visible. I used to scrape the semen off the garment of Allah's Messenger, and then he offered prayer with it. I remember when I found semen on the garment of the Messenger of Allah and scratched it off. She's scratching off the semen, she's scraping off the semen, she's rubbing off the semen, she's washing off the semen, and even then she sees more as he's going to the mosque to hug it out with his bros. I would want a restraining order against this guy to keep him far away from me. This is the prophet that someone invented?
David asked, this is a prophet that someone invented? In a word, yes. Like, I think the semen stories are very easy. That this guy is, I know you're going to think this is absurd, and it is. But from the perspective of the people who are fabricating these stories, he's a man's man. He's bursting with virility. It is positively gushing, quite literally, out of him. And so he is somebody that when your paradise is a big bordello and all you're doing, your entire vision of what is the greatest good for human beings is sex, then a guy who's covered with semen all the time, well, he's really somebody to admire.
As far as the issue of the semen, Robert says Muhammad was a man's man, gushing with virility. I have a question. What makes Robert make so sure that this was Muhammad's semen? Let's read a couple of sources. These may be hard to see, but I'll just go ahead and read a couple of these stories for you. Okay, this is Sunan Abu Dawud. Abdurrahman ibn Abu Alayla, quoting blah, 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 said that while he was given to jesting and was talking to the people and making them laugh, the prophet poked him under the ribs with a stick. He said, let me take retaliation. He said, oh, take retaliation. He said, but you're wearing a shirt, but I'm not. The prophet then raised his shirt, and the man embraced him and began kissing his side. Then he said, this is what I wanted, Messenger of Allah. You got that, right? Got that? Here's another hadith, and this is interesting. This is an interesting issue, like legitimately interesting, because you have this issue with Dihya al-Kalbi, who is supposedly the handsomest young man in Arabia. When Dihya would show up to town, it was said that the women of the town would all run out to just gaze upon him. That's how hot this young man was, right? And in both Sunni and Shia sources, you've got all these stories about people seeing Muhammad and Dihya, and Muhammad would say, oh, you know that's the angel Gabriel, right? He just looks exactly like Dihya al-Kalbi. So when you see me with Dihya al-Kalbi, it's actually the angel Gabriel, right? Okay, I'll give a couple of examples. Time is short. Narrated Abu Uthman, I got the news that Jibril came to the Prophet while Salama was present. Jibril started talking to the Prophet. The Prophet said to Salama, did you know who that was? She said, it was Dihya, a handsome person amongst the companions of the Prophet. Later on, Salama said, by Allah, I thought it was none but Dihya, but I heard the Prophet talking about Jibril. So he goes and he actually gives a message that when you see me with Dihya al-Kalbi, it's actually the angel Gabriel. Check this out. We can't read this, maybe very hard to see, but I'll go in. Once Abu Dar came to the Messenger of Allah while Jibril was in the form of Dihya al-Kalbi, one of the companions of the Holy Prophet, in a private meeting with the Messenger of Allah. And then I'll go ahead and read the next paragraph there. When Jibril left, Abu Dar came to the Holy Prophet and Messenger of Allah, said to him, "O Abu Dar, who stopped you from offering us the greeting when you passed by?" He said, "O Messenger of Allah, I thought the person with you was Dihya al-Kalbi in a private meeting for something of your affairs." The Messenger of Allah said, "That was Jibril." That was Gabriel. This one's really small, but Hudayfa answered, the people used to enter upon the Prophet whenever they wanted. The Prophet then prohibited them from entering upon him when he was in a meeting with Dihya al-Kalbi, right? And so it goes on as how Muhammad would have these private meetings with Dihya. I'll just read the next little paragraph there.
30 seconds.
Hudhaifa said, "One day I came to the Prophet for some matter, hoping to meet with him alone. When I arrived at the door, I looked and found a curtain covering the door. I raised it and was about to enter. That's what we were accustomed to do. Muhammad's behind the curtain with Dihya, they leave it alone. But this guy walked in. Then I saw Dihya sitting beside the Prophet who was sleeping, and his head was on the lap of Dihya. Long story short, of course, it turns out to be the angel Gabriel. You can see there at the bottom. Then the Prophet replied, that was Gabriel. So why did you tell him when you entered? And what did he tell? We all know what this sounds like. Like, why are you inventing this? We all know that if you came home to your wife early and you saw a guy slipping out the window and you ran in thinking, hey, did that guy rob you? What was that guy jumping out the window? Oh, no, that was an angel, honey. We know no one in history would be dumb enough to fall for that.
And
why would you invent this story? We know where the semen came from, Robert.
we'll kick it over to